Hello, everyone. On today's episode of Detour, I'm bringing back my brother, Anand. We got a lot of requests for talking about some of the stories when we were struggling and how we handled it. And I think you guys will enjoy some of our crazy stories of 2008, 2009, when we were really in the dumps in our business. So enjoy, and obviously hit us up if you have any questions. You want to learn how to handle some of these things, hit my brother or myself up on Instagram, and we'll try to help you out. Okay, on today's episode of Detour, we got a lot of feedback. Last time my brother and I did our podcast about some of the horror stories that we went through being entrepreneurs for the last 16, 17 years. So we wanted to get really specific and talk about different moments. So it may end up being a series of pods we do as we start remembering these terrible moments. But I think what we wanted to start with was...
So people enjoy the dark side.
Yeah.
So now they want to go darker.
They want to go dark.
Okay.
I mean, it's why we like cereal or like anything.
On a freeway watching a car wreck.
You like...
Everyone wants to watch the car wreck.
The car wreck is more fun than the guy that got home safely.
Sure.
In our case, the car wreck is a bunch of different moments, and I think the recession is probably our best story or experience, and that was like 2007, 2008 for us, and it our business came kind of crashing down, I would say overnight. Yeah. Where we lost customers.
Well, I would say it was worse than recession. It was the worst financial catastrophe in history of the United States.
And what you don't realize is you read something on the news like Lehman Brothers is falling apart, and you're like, why does that affect me? You don't even realize that at that time, because you're like, the world's going to fall apart. Because I think people don't pay attention to the news that often when these world-changing events are happening. When the Lehman Brothers thing happened, I remember we were like, oh, shit. Like, how quickly will this affect us? Yeah. And it was overnight.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was literally like, we thought people were going to be lined up for like bread.
Yeah, there was a moment where the banking system could collapse. Like you could go and try to withdraw money from your bank account and potentially it wouldn't be there. Yeah. Like we're probably 2 weeks away from that.
Yeah, it was that dark. And then the government had to step in and bail all the banks out. And what happened to people like us, we're in the consumer business, we sell clothes. Obviously, when you hear that on the news, what's the first thing you do? You stop spending money. Yep. You cut all your expenses. And that was such a quick cascading effect on our entire life, because it went from like, oh, we're going to push an order out to we're going to cancel an order. Oh, by the way, we owe you this money and we're going out of business. Yep. And then all of a sudden orders were getting canceled. And we were like, okay, what do we do? Because we couldn't get any more business at this time. So all we could do is just cut. So we owed money. Yep. We owed lots of money. Probably $10 million.
Yeah, probably.
$10 million. What was your first line of defense? I mean, you started reaching out to people. You have to over-communicate in a time of darkness. And I think
the biggest thing is when you owe people money, regardless of who the vendor is or what type of vendor it is you have to communicate a payment plan. And the biggest lesson I learned is as long as you're paying something, you can give confidence to that person you owe money to. Yeah. So, I mean, the most egregious bill was a $160,000 legal bill we had, and we paid $500 a week, which sounds ridiculous. Yeah. But it worked.
And they accepted it.
Yes.
And if the person on the other side, most situations, they don't have any common sense because they're pissed that they're owed money, is if, and I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to quote this correctly, but in all the cases that we've dealt with where we've even owed money or people have owed us money, if you make good faith effort to continue to pay regularly, there's no case. Like, all they could do is...
Well, forget that there's no case, because they can sue if they want to sue.
Yeah, they'll sue.
The problem is they have to go through either like a collections attorney, and they're going to give up 35%. Maybe more to recover the bill. Yeah. So it's not if you have confidence that this bill will get paid ultimately, it's not smart to sue for it. No. If you don't think you're going to get paid, period, then I get why you'd engage an attorney. Yeah. But if there is a window where you're like, I think I can get paid in this time. Just wait it out.
Yeah, and by the way, if you do end up suing or you get sued, it's a multi-year process.
Yeah.
Nothing is getting written off. I mean, we have lost lawsuits, told people we don't have the money, and ended up on an egregious payment plan after the fact.
And
so
you
end up getting like a 5-year loan on the money that was owed.
And the only people that win are attorneys.
Yeah.
Because they bill you that entire time.
Yeah, and so some of the things that we did was we went and made payment plans with all our vendors immediately. Some accepted, some told us to fuck off, but we kept paying, and then all those people from that era pretty much got paid.
Yeah,
it just took a while in that time frame.
And they have to. I mean, at that time, everyone understood your options are you can try to bankrupt this business, and then you completely get screwed.
Yeah.
Or you can work with companies like us and agree to these payment plans. Yeah. Because there's no point in, a creditor just saying, I'm going to liquidate your inventory. Then everyone gets screwed.
Then everyone gets nothing.
Yeah.
And I also think that in the grand scheme of things, if you don't work with the vendors, both sides are going to get heavily affected. And I think the other interesting thing that if you are cash rich in a tough time and you owe people money, you can negotiate all your bills.
Yep.
Like in 2008, if we were cash rich, we could have paid 50 cents on the dollar.
Probably less.
Yeah.
Because everyone was starving for cash.
Yeah, we would have made out like
So bandits. If you owed someone $100,000 and it was net 60 and it was day one, you probably could have got the bill for $35,000 up front.
Yeah, and just say, I'll pay you right now, but be done. Because people were so scared of like survival, they would have taken any money. Like 50 cents on the dollar sounds so egregious today, but it was acceptable.
Yeah.
If you got 50 cents, everyone's like, I remember so many retailers that were going out of business. He's like, I got you 50 cents a dollar. And we were ecstatic. 25 cents a dollar.
Because the alternative is you're getting zero.
Exactly. So you take what you can get. And I think what people don't realize is all the other areas that are negotiable too. And in our case was an interesting one was payroll tax.
Yeah.
We owed...
A little risky, but we did it.
Yeah, we owed... You owe payroll tax every payroll period. And this was peak of the financial crisis. We stopped paying it. And I don't think we paid it for, a year?
Probably almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
And guess what? The IRS is so backed up and just inefficient. They don't catch on for 2 years after that.
Yeah. So they eventually caught on, and we made a payment plan with them.
Yeah.
So we essentially got an interest-free.
Well, no, they charged interest. So you paid a high interest loan.
Yeah, you paid a very high interest loan.
But you bought you 4 years.
Yeah, and at that time, that money wasn't available for us to pay. I mean, we're not recommending this by any stretch of the imagination.
It was just things we did for survival.
Yeah, it was just desperation, and we ended up paying our bill. They taxed us on the interest, and they made their money.
Yeah.
And, we ended up going square on that. The other interesting thing that we did, because it is really tough to cut your staff when the world is falling apart. And so our first move was actually not cutting the staff, but cutting some hours. So we had a 5-day work week that people worked, 40 hours a week. And we were like, what's an easy way to cut, 10, 20% of our payroll? And we were like, let's give everyone Friday half days. And that ended up being, what was that, a 10% reduction?
Yeah.
10% reduction in our payroll overnight. And we didn't have to lay anyone off. And
everyone loved it.
We loved it. It was great for company morale. And it was so funny because we would just go out and get hammered the rest of the day.
That's probably the most fun time we've had operating this business.
We weren't really operating anything.
Yeah, we had nothing to do. We owed a bunch of money.
Yeah.
So we might as well go.
We were literally at like a happy hour in like Venice or Belmont or these places all over LA.
Yeah, it was fun.
And, the weather's nice all year. So like we were at the beach just getting hammered at, shitty little bars. But we were able to cut payroll, keep company morale decent during that time period. But it's tough because the other challenge is like, as an entrepreneur, we all have egos, and it's so tough to like shut down a retail store, let people go, tell vendors you can no longer do this, kill projects. Think about even the last couple of years, there's some things financially just didn't make sense, and we had to shut it down. And we said, we're no longer going to spend money on this. And I think that's you have to make very hard decisions very quickly and early on for survival.
Yeah, I think ostensibly it can be it's really easy to be a good entrepreneur when everything's going great. You're actually tested when you hit a roadblock
Yeah.
and not being able to pay vendors, potentially having to lay off staff. Those are the hard decisions that separate good entrepreneurs from bad entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Because over time, every entrepreneur is going to be faced with these obstacles.
Yeah, and we see it still time and time again where we hear these headlines of these companies that go out of business, and the writing was on the wall years ago.
Mm-hmm.
They just did nothing about it. So how do you do not make that decision? And I think for us, we're at a point now when the writing's on the wall, we make the decision way faster than we used to. And we still drag our feet to an extent. Like, we're not like the next day make that decision. We think about it. We try to figure it out. We hate cutting people or, not working with vendors because of financial reasons. But we still make that decision fast enough where the lights are still on. The business gets to continue because the alternative is you're over.
Yeah, being married to this long-term vision that you had when you started the business.
Yeah.
Could potentially put you out of business if you're not able to pivot and make hard decisions when times are tough.
And that's like tough for especially venture-backed businesses that raise all this money, have fancy offices, live this incredible. All of a sudden, there's no more free beer at 4 p.m. or, stuff like that. We even, quite recently cut like some little things like snacks and this, and it was like thousands of dollars a month instantly. And we still offer our perks for our staff and things like that. But like when you want to tighten the belt, you just got to go. You just got to go through the list and start making those cuts.
And
quickly.
If employees are only working for you for those perks, they probably aren't the right employees.
Yeah. And I think that's another good kind of like ending topic is how you deal with employees in this situation. And I think you have to, I think the first mistake I made when we were having hard times is I would shield that information and not let people know and try to put it all on the pressure on ourselves. But I think it's important if the business is struggling and these are important people, you got to be transparent with them and let them know, like, this is where we're at. Do you have the stomach for this? If not, all good, you should move on. Yeah. But here's the heads up, because it'll also help you. You need a different animal instincts when you're struggling. It's a completely different company when you're thriving versus when you're struggling.
And the real thing I'm noticing is most people in sub 32 have not experienced a downturn.
Yeah.
It's been uninterrupted growth since 2009.
Yeah.
So I would say the majority of people in their 20s and early 30s literally have no clue what happens when things aren't great. And because right now, if your venture-backed business goes out of business, you go to the next one.
Yeah.
And you're going to go get your six-figure salary there, and then you're going to jump to the next one because there's so much capital being deployed to all these different companies that young people want to be at that it's not that hard to find a job.
No. And I think what's scary is that businesses and individuals are operating like there's uninterrupted growth forever. So there's going to be a moment where things are going to get pinched. Hopefully it doesn't get like 2008, but times will get tough. And if you're positioned right, it could be the biggest opportunity of your life if you have cash in a downturn. Definitely. Like we're preparing to have cash, and we want to be aggressive in that time. We don't want to be playing for survival. We want to be like, wow, we get to go and build new businesses, buy brands, do whatever it is, invest in opportunities. And there will be that opportunity. Don't ever believe that this thing just never ends. It's just never ending. It does end. Every good...
There's ebbs and flows no matter how in the history of the world.
Exactly.
There's always been upturns and downturns.
And so I think on this particular topic, we really wanted to touch on like how to cut expenses quickly, how to handle financial shortfalls. And, everybody is negotiable. There's no one, even like, we never knew that until this happened, where we had no choice. We'd be like, this is what it is, $500 a week. Will you take it or not? $500 a month, whatever it is. And people accepted it. There's no other option. You're not going to get your money if you do not agree to this. And they could sue you. They could do all those things. And guess what the judge is going to say? You have to pay this bill. How are you going to pay it? I need a payment plan. And the judge is like, as long as he pays, it's good.
Yeah.
You just got to keep your word on the payment plan and keep it going.
Yep.
Good luck.